and we did not feel that it really warranted being in that high priority area. So we're just keeping an eye on that one right now. We're methodically replacing all the infrastructure in our system, and we're ramping up. In the last 10 years, we've constructed about 29 miles of trunk line at a cost of $360 million, and that's the greater than 30-inch diameter pipe. Going forward in the next 10 years, we plan to construct another 55 miles of trunk line at a cost of $1.3 billion. And the priorities that we're using for our trunk line construction going forward are projects that also provide water quality improvement benefits to us, and then also the ones that the condition assessment results in a critical replacement category, and that would be the effects if the pipeline broke. Is it in a place where it's going to do a lot of damage? Is it in corrosive soil? Is it of a material that has a bad history? Does it have a history of leaks? That sort of thing. So those are the criteria we're using. It should be noted that the cold water pipeline had been identified in this process. The design had already completed on that pipeline, and we were scheduled to begin the construction of that segment that included the part that broke next month. Unfortunate coincidence, but I take some comfort in the fact that it was on our radar screen and we were in the process of dealing with it. On the main lines, we have about 6,700 miles of main line that are the less than 24-inch diameter in our system. Interestingly enough, about 88 miles of that pipe are over 100 years old. Most of that pipe has very low leakage rates. One of the things that comes up is people associate age with infrastructure decay. What we're finding is some of those other factors, the leak history of the pipe, the material, the soil it's in, the kind of protection, the coatings that it had, have a much greater impact on it than the age of the pipe. So if we'd have gone out and replaced all the oldest pipe, we wouldn't have been replacing the leakiest pipe. And what we want to do is replace the pipe that's going to be causing problems for our customers, and it's going to be the biggest rate of return, if you will, for our ratepayers, so that we'll use less it'll cause less damage, or failure will cause damage. We've got about plans are to replace about 21 miles of pipe in this current fiscal year, 2009-10, and I'm talking about mainline pipe. We'll be ramping up to about 38 miles by 2013-14. One of the things we did do when we presented the budget to your board for this current year, due to some of the fiscal constraints we were looking at, we had proposed deferring the addition of 3 mainline crews this year. We've taken a look at the capital program, and we think we can reprioritize some of the items in there without impacting the reliability of the system. We're going to be proposing that we go ahead and add those 3 mainline crews and keep on the original schedule that we had to ramp up our mainline replacement, so that we'll be up to a point where we can do 200,000 feet per year, or 38, and that works out to 38 miles, and that will be kind of an ongoing basis for us going forward. It should be noted that this all requires a lot of money. All of the replacements that we're looking at in the out years. We budgeted, and this was presented to the board at the budget review and the financial plan for water. For water quality related infrastructure, we were looking at about $1.3 billion over the next 5 years, and then for general infrastructure replacement, about $1.4 billion in the next 5 years. There are a series of revenue increases that were worked into the financial plan. These have not been approved by the City Council yet, but they are part of the overall financial plan, which in turn supports our capital improvement plan. We'll be obviously having to have that discussion with the City Council going forward of the need to support our capital infrastructure with the revenue requirements that the budget director had recommended to the board at that time. Kind of going forward, one of the things that we do face is balancing our spending. There's always more need for infrastructure replacement out there than we have dollars, but it's our job to make sure that we take the dollars that we have and put them in the right places and keep up with the infrastructure. We think we're doing that. On infrastructure replacement, the kind of things that this is supporting besides pipes are reservoirs, tanks, and pump station and regulator stations. On the water quality mandates, this includes covered storage and new surface water treatment and groundwater treatment facilities. And then also on new sources of supply, we have capital expenditures related to conservation, recycling, water transfers, and new wells. The way that we're managing this going forward, rather than the kind of report which we did back in 96 and 98 on the trunk lines, although it was a good report at the time, the technology and asset management has advanced, and we are using the latest management tools and techniques to manage all of the assets that we have in the water system going forward. And the key elements of that asset management plan are to refine our operations and maintenance practices, perform condition assessments for all of our assets, evaluate the useful life of our assets, prepare replacement and rehabilitation strategies, which is kind of what we've been talking about here, determine the appropriate staffing levels for operations and maintenance, and then determine the long-range funding needs. So those are all those elements need to be addressed.